Marco Reus. Daniel Malen! Wonderful!
Fantastic from Royce. Jude Bellingham, that's excellent. Jude Bellingham, this is absolutely brilliant. Jude Bellingham! Absolutely magnificent.
Reina, brilliant from the American. Just like that.
Not the best of clearances. Oh, what a volley! Mats Hummels!
Brandt in for Haaland! Like he's never been away! The man in front of goal who is simply deadly.
Hey, welcome to the BVB podcast. Thank you so much. If this is your first time listening, you can always find us on your preferred podcast platform and YouTube by searching the BVB podcast. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at the BVBpod and email us. I'm going to go old school, thebvbpod@gmail.com. My name's Jake B. Carver. I said Jake B, which is like my official radio name.
Yeah.
We're in the radio studio. I've just been doing a lot of radio stuff. My name's Jake, or Jake B sometimes.
Yeah.
And Carver is with me as always. How's your face feeling? How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. I had a wisdom teeth removal the other day. It's been ups and downs, but man, was I hyped over the weekend watching this game. I don't know, if it was the pain medications.
It really happened. It was real.
Yeah, the enormous win that we had, or it was probably just a mix of both, but I couldn't feel much of any pain on Saturday, so I was living that high for a little bit, and now I'm kind of crashing back down to earth.
And if Carver starts to fade at any point in the episode, his payments are kicking in again, and we might have to cut the episode short. Good times. I finally watched. I texted you last night because I finally got around to watching the game. I had a busy weekend. I went to Kansas City for a wedding. Had a really good time, and it took me a while to get around to watching the game. But I couldn't believe it when it was like I was like 30 minutes in, and I text Carver. I'm like, WTF is going on with this game right now?
Yeah, I got the text at like 10:30 or so, and I was like, oh, he's just now watching it, huh?
And what the heck? So coming off our massive win against Wolfsburg, winning 6-1. So of course we'll recap that. We got their Klassiker next weekend, or this coming weekend. So we'll preview that. We're also going to hit on the Match for Peace benefit game for Ukraine, which we'll touch on a little bit. And we have a big announcement. I don't remember if we actually teased it last time or if we cut that from the episode.
Yeah, we cut it.
Okay.
We teased it a few weeks back, but now we get to finally talk about that.
Now we have a big announcement, which we'll get to at the end of the episode. But I guess we jump right into our recap of Wolfsburg, which was nuts. I still don't even know what to think of this game because I was watching it and I'm like, I don't know what's going on right now. I can't even pinpoint like, yeah, this is Dortmund playing well. It's just like everything was so bizarre almost. It was like, what is happening? I mean, fantastic, obviously fantastic, but I just couldn't fathom what was happening.
It was almost like overwhelming how many goals we scored in the span of, 14 minutes? I couldn't even catch my breath half of this game. Just an incredible game overall. Yeah, 6-1. Had a handful of Bundesliga debuts for our, a few of our U19 players. Had a handful of players, or actually the most of our goals this game came from players that just don't ever score much at all. And finally, the return that the fans have been wanting at this stadium. I know a few weeks back we had the game against Leipzig and got our asses handed to us. So this was like a real proper return for the fans. So yeah, excited to get into this one for sure.
What did you, so right off the bat, thoughts on the lineup, which started, I've accepted that whatever they show us on TV or FOTMOB or whatever, it doesn't matter. Like we've been playing this hybrid back 4, back 3, which I like because that's what we called for a lot a few months ago. It's like I kind of want to see a back 3. And I've touched on this before with the signing of Sule and all the potential Schlotterbeck, which is looking real close. So it looks like that's happening. And I think now that we're kind of leaning in this back 3, I still think maybe it's because these signings and maybe because they both play in a back 3, Sule in the middle, Schlotterbeck on the left. So maybe that's what we're working towards, and we're just going to be full on back 3. But it's kind of this weird hybrid where we transition. But it was a back 3 most of this game, what it seemed like, with Chan, Akanji, and Zagadou, and the debut. Is he 17?
17.
Rothe?
Yep. And 3 U19 players on the bench as well. I was looking at this squad overall, and I was like, damn, this is. I mean, this is just crazy. How many injuries we had throughout the season, and now we're just, throwing in some of our youth players, which, let them see what they can do. If Rothe believes in them, then I think, they should have a go at him as well. And Rothe had a lot of different aspects of his game that looked pretty impressive, but we'll get into that. So, yeah, back three, Witsel and Bellingham as the pivots, Wolf on the right, of course, and then you had Brent and Royce, kind of those two attacking midfielders with Holland up top. First half, first few minutes, looking a little nervy. Not going to lie, we had some big gaps in our defense, and we struggled to find our shape. Overall, first few nervy minutes for us. Wolfsburg
Kobel came in with another huge save, like 2 minutes in, like on the line.
It seems like we just need a button for our podcast every week. We just immediately start off with like, Kobel bailed us out, because he's just got these incredible saves every week now. But yeah, Wolfsburg just cut us open like butter with that major chance early on through Schlager. Our shape was pretty piss poor in that play, in my opinion. You look at like Kanji set really deep, and then you had like 4 players to the left of him that were all like bunched up in a circle, which was like, I think it was Witsel, Bellingham, Zagadou, and it might have been Rothe as well. But all 4 of those were just bunched up and not really marking anyone, which just allowed Wolfsburg to kind of play whatever they wanted to do in that attack. And yeah, it was great football by them. That was easily their best attack. It looked like all game. And I don't know how their striker didn't put that away. I think it was that young one that I mentioned last week, Nemcha, if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, excuse me. But, I mean, he's just got to put those away. I mean, when you're that, I think it was in the 6-yard box. I don't think he was any further out than that. And, when you have an opportunity like that, you just got to blast that net. And it just looks like he kind of passed that, which gave Kobel was looking like he was able to not only react to that, but like have a good sense of where the ball was going before he could react, which just goes to show you how slow of a shot that was. But yeah, after that attack, probably the first 10 or 12, 15 minutes or so, that was mostly all Wolfsburg. And then that's when we really could grow ourselves into the game. And, you really think this looks like this exactly the same as the Leipzig game a few weeks back, but just completely in reverse. Like those first 15 minutes, it's one team. And then for the rest of the game, it's just pretty much all the other team.
Yeah, it was bizarre watching this because how strong they started. And then we just, I don't know if, I mean, they definitely dropped off, but I don't know if it's because we started to play a little better that they dropped off. But watching that game, it was basically like they weren't even there. Like they were playing like 5 men down or something. It's kind of bizarre to watch just how much they dropped off. But we did maybe I know in the 11th minute, like Wolf made that crazy run through everyone.
Completely split open their defense. Went right by John Brooks too, which I was going to talk about him later on after we dissect the whole game. But yeah, great run by Wolf, you were saying.
And then he had that dish off to Royce. They couldn't quite put it together. But from that point on, it was just like nonstop. Like we had control. We had a lot of great possession. We were having some good opportunities. I love seeing Rothe like very early in the game. They were playing it to him. Like they didn't shy away from letting him run with it. He looked a little shaky. He looked a little nervous, but shaky, it's to be expected. He gave away the ball a few times. He didn't track back quite enough. But I love that they gave him the opportunity and they didn't shy away from letting him run with it and work it. And obviously, he's going to grow into the game, which we saw. But we looked really good. I don't know.
That was really interesting to see what you were saying about the team constantly giving him the ball. I mean, you saw Rothe have, I don't know how many touches those first 25, 30 minutes. I mean, he was involved in a lot of our attacks. So, yeah, it was cool to see our team kind of give him the confidence to get more involved, but also have the confidence in him to get more involved on different those attacks. So, yeah, weathered the storm really well, like we mentioned already, and kept a good energy after those first few attacks from Wolfsburg and counterattacked really well. And it was just wave after wave of attacks against Wolfsburg, and they looked so deflated, especially after those first few goals. I mean, they were looking just completely distraught and disorganized. But, I mean, especially their defense, that was everything on their back line looked really, really piss poor.
Yeah, the good thing to see in this game was not only us controlling possession well, because, I mean, we saw that against Leipzig. Like, we had possession, granted. That was kind of their plan, like, let us have possession. But we controlled it well. We were creating good opportunities, making good moves. Our patterns looked well, but then we were also countering well. It's like everything we're doing, maybe it's because Wolfsburg was so terrible, but us to get a countering goal while also like having possession, it was really nice. And what was the counter goal was, who would have guessed that Haaland is going to be blazing through the middle and then dish off to Witzel for a goal?
I was thinking the exact same thing. I know, it's crazy. But yeah, I know Wolfsburg, we play well against them, what seems like almost every game in recent meetings, which is always great to see considering, on paper, looks like they're one of the better sides of the Bundesliga. But you really have to come out way more sharp and more focused looking next week if we want to prevent a bloodbath early on, because in the last however many years I've, supported this team, it seems like a lot of the times that we're playing Bayern, it just looks like in the first 12 or 15 minutes we're down 2, sometimes 3-0, and it's just at that point we're just clinging on for dear life for the remaining 75 or 80 minutes. So, you really have to just stay focused and come out sharp and alert, because Bayern are going to punish you for that. If it was Lewandowski on the end of that chance when Kobel made that diving save, that's a goal 9.5 times out of 10 almost.
Well, even the second chance on that, Kobel, so, we're back, we're getting a little all over the place, but it's fine. Kobel made that save, but he didn't get a hold of the ball. It ricocheted out, and then there was a terrible clearance by Kanji where they had a second chance on goal, and luckily the guy just skied it, but he had a very good chance to put that in too. And that's just something we have to be more aware of too. Like if Kobel does save it, the Kanji got to be on it to clear, like get a good clearance, because he kind of like whiffed it and the ball rolled like 6 feet in front of him, and the guy came in and could have put away, but luckily skied it. And it's just we just gotta be on.
Yeah, you got to be switched on for those moments, absolutely. And our first goal, came from a set piece. A handful of our goals came from a handful of our goals this game came from a set piece, which is crazy to see because we usually can't ever score or defend from those. But whip it in a corner. Julian Brandt, I think, took that corner, and I had no idea who scored it at first. And then when it zooms in to see who's running, it's Tom Rothe, and I was like, it's just, you can't write a story like this. It's brilliant to see a kid that age score on his debut. It was cool.
And it was hard to see because it's real fresh in my mind because I watched it last night. But like the shadow on the field because of the earlier game, and it was just hard to see what's going on the field in general. But back to the Julian Brandt, I remember who we were playing, but that game where he had 2 corner goals to Meunier.
Yeah.
Like we've seen this. We've seen him be able to put those good crosses in, or whether it's from a corner or a set or a penalty outside the box. Like he's got that ability, and I know he hasn't been in recent weeks, with the exception of last week. He hasn't been that great.
Recent months, even really. He's had his first half of the season was really good in my opinion.
Yeah.
But towards the end of January, he really had a 2.5 month spell where he just couldn't do much of anything, which was bringing back a lot of the people in line, bringing that conversation of do we really want to keep him? And thankfully, he's been able to really try to prove himself in these last few games because, you're hoping if he ends the season on a high, we can have a serious conversation if the board wants to try to keep him for another year or so and see what happens. But
do you think he's a player? Because he was one of my standout performances this game. He was incredible, and I don't remember what minute it was. 51st minute, second half. He did that scorpion kick over a dude and then settled it around a dude. And just nuts.
And you're almost expecting it. Go ahead.
Oh no! Well, I was gonna ask you. Do you think we can, if say he ends the season well and we keep him? Do you think he's a player who is just going to be up and down, kind of streaky, or is he a guy who can hit that consistent form? It's hard to say with any player.
Yeah,
but
that's the $1 million question in my opinion. I feel like he's a player that probably could pick up some consistency, but I think it's just a matter of how much he wants to do it. At times it doesn't look like he really wants to constantly perform at that level or perform with that kind of mentality because we all know he lacks the aggression to really throw himself into challenges and try to win possession back, which it's not really necessarily what we're asking Brandt to do at times, but he just does lack that grit and what you want to see as a player that's wearing the Dortmund badge. But I would argue, hopefully he can pick up some consistency for sure. He's done it in the past, and I think it can be dangerous in a lot of different ways for our team. So, we scored that one, and then 2 minutes later, a minute and a half later,
2 minutes,
right back into
with
it
a counterattack
with Haaland, which you already mentioned before. But I mean, Haaland's another player, and picking up the ball in the middle third and just immediately driving the team forward. Like that is like vintage Haaland, even though he's only been here for 2 years. That's what we've been wanting to see from him since January. You know, he's ever since he's been back, he's been lacking a lot of different areas in this game. But you could see in that play alone that Haaland had his confidence back and he was feeling alive. You know, he wanted to be there and he wanted to drive us forward, and it was a great counterattack overall. And yeah, but he dished it off to Witsel, and Witsel hit it with his left, and it's like, what is going on? You have a 17-year-old player who's making his debut, score a header, and then you have Witsel scoring with his left. It's just like, it's crazy.
On the breakaway, like how did Witsel even get up there? Like how did he outpace the other guys? I don't understand. Well, so Haaland did well. To speak on Haaland, we mentioned this last week because he got his assist last week, which I think gave a lot of confidence. And I like seeing this. Obviously, he hasn't scored in 4 or 5 games, maybe 5 games. So
5 or 6 now.
You can see it. I mean, he's just going to have more and more hunger to score, but I like that. Last week, he got the assist. Obviously, it would have been better if he got a goal, but you still see that passion and that desire. And obviously in this game too, like you said, get the ball in the midfield and push it, and have that drive.
And the selflessness as well. You know, he knows that he wants to put the team in front, not necessarily himself in front, which is a little refreshing to see because a lot of the people in the fan base, including me, are kind of getting sick of like being known for Haaland FC. You know, we're a team before anyone else and no one individual is above the club. But yeah, it was cool to see him dish it off to Witsel like that and Witsel bag a goal, especially now that we know Witzel's probably not going to be here next year. I mean, his contract ends, but didn't see any links in the last, several months or whatever about him extending. So, but Castile's Wolfsburg keeper was pretty piss poor on that play. Yeah, he was poor all game.
That's something I was going to bring up. A lot of these goals, I think, are partially contributed to how woeful he was.
Yeah,
he could have stopped that Witsel goal. I don't know what happened with his foot, but if you watch the replay, his foot just somehow stood up. I don't know why he picked his foot up, but the ball went right. It was not a great hit by Witsel.
No,
it went right on the dude's foot. And then we saw that with the Chan goal too. It just bounced right under his arm where he could have done better to get his arms down. It's very weird.
Yeah, especially that Chan goal. I mean, both were pretty shocking, but yeah, you just kind of sitting there, if you're a Wolfsburg fan, shaking your head and scratching your head going like, he's usually one of the better keepers in the Bundesliga. I don't know how he doesn't keep that out. But he looked off that game for sure, which is great for us, though. I mean, that just gives us more opportunity to score more. But, yeah, it was unfortunate. It was able to slip under his feet, but you got to do better with that as a keeper. And then what? We're a minute and a half later again. We're going for our third goal, and this time it's another set piece. Again.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I skipped over. I went to the Chan one, but the Kanji
No, you're
goal.
fine. I mean, there's 6, so there. I mean, there's a lot where we can get lost here, but yeah, have a set piece, and this one is coming off of a Kanji. It's just so funny to think, like, if you were to tell someone if there were just 3 goals in this game, then they were a youth player, a Kanji, and Witsel. And it wasn't even off the set piece. It wasn't even like Kanji was flicking it with his head. He used his foot too.
No, it was a very bizarre. I mean, it was a good touch, but it was just not what you would expect. When I thought it was Haaland who scored it.
Me too.
It was right behind him. And
he's doing the same movement.
Yeah, same thing. I was like, oh, we got another. And again, it was hard to see with the shadow and everything. I was like, oh, we got another Haaland goal, in the previous Wolfsburg game. And you're like, Kanji's celebrating. I'm like, what is going on? What the heck is happening? I think another keeper error. I think he got his hand to it.
Yeah.
And I mean, just not with enough power to keep it off because that couldn't have been that powerful of a.
No. And that's why as a keeper, you got to have more than the reflexes. You got to have strong hands to keep those balls out. So it's 3 goals in 4 minutes now, which is just, it's just unimaginable at this point. We haven't had a game like this all season. You could argue we had one of our best halves all season against Freiburg, but that was only one half. And now Wolfsburg are just in complete disarray. They have nowhere to hide, and they're just facing waves after waves of dangerous attacks from Dortmund, and they're looking completely deflated. And a few minutes later, you're getting your 4th now, which is 4 goals in 11 minutes. And that one comes from Chan, like you mentioned before. Great run from him. I mean, how many times have we said, not only this season, but in the last few weeks alone, of him, bossing and organizing that defense and then immediately driving forward on that right-hand side and making these great runs. and dishing it in with his left. It was a great shot.
So you mentioned the Freiburg game, which I remember when we did that episode, I remember thinking, and it was in my notes and everything, that was the best half I've ever seen Dortmund play.
Mm-hmm.
And this didn't feel like that as much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because there were a lot of kind of bizarre goals, and I'm just like, I don't know what's going on right now.
Yeah.
It's great, but I don't know what's going on. Do you think, was that game, and I can't remember back to everything, but did that just seem like a little more solid, like we were good defensively?
Yeah.
And we were able to turn it around and play really well offensively? I just don't remember, because this was, Wolfsburg just didn't do anything except have our weird goals go in. Like not to discredit us in this first half, because we did look good, but they just looked very, very poor.
Yeah, I remember the few things I do remember from the Freiburg game is how solid we looked defensively, for sure. I think they had I can't remember the stat off the top of my head. I think it was 70 or something touches that they had in our half, the entire first half. And they just didn't have barely any chances, which Wolfsburg had a handful of different chances this game, especially in the first half as well. But our attacks looked better than the ones in Freiburg. It was so free-flowing, again, with the counterattacks and beautiful runs going forward. Finally got to see a little bit more these last few days of more tastes of Rothe ball, hopefully. And then right before the half, you're getting a fifth goal from Holland. And this one is from the dish off from Royce, which I know 2 weeks back against Leipzig, Royce tried to do the exact same thing where he tried to be clever and dish it back behind him for Holland to get the tap in, and they just weren't on the same page. But this time Holland looked a little bit more in sync with him and was able to just get the easy goal. And the minute he tapped in, he was just given the Royce the applause of thank you for getting me on the score sheet, which was great to see. So
I forgot to put that goal in my notes. I was looking, we're like, what are you talking about? But yeah, I remember the goal. I remember it. I just forgot to put it in my notes, because at that point I'm like, what the heck? I probably threw my phone, because I'm like, this is absurd.
I can't remember the last time we've seen that level of confidence in a performance of ours for such a long time, excuse me. And we're just always turning it on against Wolfsburg, these last few meetings against them, and it's so fun to watch. So again, an incredible half. We're going in at half at 5-0, and no changes, obviously. And come out of the second half, and it's almost basically a repeat in a nutshell.
Yeah.
You had the first 5 minutes or so of Wolfsburg having some chances.
Well, even the first minute, they had a good chance where Kobel had to make kind of a flying
another
save.
Great save.
Yeah.
Both of those could have easily been goals if it weren't for having a top keeper on your side, and Kobel definitely delivered on both of those chances. You conceded a handful of more corners than I would have liked. I think we had 2 corners before the 50th minute. So, again, something you need to be alert and aware of whenever you're facing a team like Bayern is they're going to be deadly on those set pieces, and they're going to be more clinical in front of goal as well. So if we don't learn from those mistakes in this Wolfsburg game, which there were mistakes, even though it was a thrashing, you need to be a lot more alert for those kind of opportunities going forward, for sure. But after that, yeah, it was just us growing back into that game and growing more into confidence, and it was just another bloodbath. Even though we only scored 1 in the second half, there was still plenty of chances. This could have easily been 8 or 9, and I don't think that's exaggerating at all. Granted, if it were 8 or 9, it probably would have been 8 or 9 to 3 from Wolfsburg, or 2 from Wolfsburg. But yeah, just attacks flowing almost the entire second half, and once we shut those attacks down in those 45 minutes, it was just game over for them. Again, they looked so deflated, and our players were looking alive. Holland was looking nice and confident, making those great runs. You mentioned already, winning the ball back in the middle third, which we haven't seen him do that in a while, and bodying everyone and driving the team forward. It was a great second half overall.
Yeah, and then we did see, we saw I don't know what I'm saying. We saw the other youth guys come in too. Jamie Bino Gittins, which we were kind of hoping for in the last game. I think we said, let's go 3 goals up and let's see what he can do.
Yeah.
And then, we get 5 goals up, I guess.
Yeah.
What did you think on there?
He only played for, I think it was less than a minute, right? It was 45 seconds or something like that. Didn't touch the ball, if I'm not wrong. So, didn't get to see any of him do anything. But this is obviously good to see, because Rothe, I imagine, will probably use him more in these last few games. I mentioned last week that after this Bayern game, we have a pretty favorable spell of games for the rest of the season. You have Bochum, you have Fürth, and you have Hertha Berlin. All three teams, I think, are towards, we have 15th, 18th, and 12th in the league to play against. So I think those are going to be games that you can go ahead and experiment a little more depending on how the team is performing, and maybe get to see Bino Gittins net a few more minutes. But, excuse me, the one goal that Wolfsburg did score, though, I do remember that. Zagadou really, again, needs to step up and close down those angles better. I remember he got exposed a handful of times really bad against Leverkusen when he didn't close down those angles quicker. He just kind of like half jogs almost, and which I get you're trying to contain. You don't want to dive in too easy, but when you have his size and you have his strength and his speed, I think you got to utilize those in closing down those angles. And whenever Baku got the rebound off the bar, I think it was off the crossbar and it fell down back to Baku at the top of the box, and Zagadou just kind of watched him for a second instead of slowly making his way towards him. And Baku just had the space and time to fire off a shot, which made it 6-1, which is, frustrating to not get the clean sheet. You really want to go out of this one giving Kobel what he more than deserves. But, still, we looked alert and focused after that goal, thankfully. After conceding that, we looked very much focused.
Yeah. Overall, great day. Fantastic day, and I think exactly what we needed leading into this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
It was nice that, a little kind of an easy game. Like it was a nice.
It was a training session.
Yeah.
And one of our best games of the season so far. I would argue the best game of the season so far. I know I mentioned again Freiburg already at home, but we came out the second half against Wolfsburg and we put on a performance as well. I think with Freiburg we had a incredible first half, but the second half could have been a little bit better. And I think the second half here was probably pretty much the same, just small things we need to work on. But again, they're still very important for Bayern for sure.
Yeah, and I think to play like that and have things click is just kind of, it's almost like an aha moment, if you want to call it that, to give even more confidence going into this game, rather than us coming off one win that was like we did okay here and there, or coming off a loss where we feel like, okay, now we need to bounce back, because that's been what we have so many of those moments, like, okay, we need to bounce back, and then we either perform or we don't. So I think getting this really big win just can boost our confidence so much going into this next game. Obviously, hopefully they don't come out low. Like, they can't come out slow, like you mentioned, because Bayern's going to come out hitting.
Yep.
So we just have to have the intensity from the start. I just hope there's not any like complacency or anything coming off this huge win, but I hope it just gives us all the good confidence that we need.
Yeah, one can only hope. I know we've mentioned already a handful of standout performances, but I want to mention a few more. One of them being John Brooks. If I may take off my Dortmund supporter hat for 1 second and put on my USMNT. Man, was John Brooks poor. And, for any American fans out there, the last year or so, people have been looking at Greg Berhalter and they're going like, why is John Brooks not in this squad? He's easily one of our best players, especially in the back line, and I think he deserves to play more, I being the fan base. And, Greg Berhalter had some criticisms of him as of late, and watching him this game, man, that really validated them for me. This man was incredibly sloppy. He was careless, looked really, really slow. I don't think John Brooks is slow at all. I think he's actually a pretty quick player for his size, but man, was he slow in this game. And just letting everyone go by him, and I can't imagine at this kind of level that he's performing at, he's going to get any sort of call-up anytime soon. Especially with the partnership continuing to solidify of Anthony Robinson and Walker Zimmerman. John Brooks really has to fight for his spot back. And it sucks because I still am a huge fan of him. I still hear the clip in my head to this day, like it was yesterday, of him scoring in the winner against Ghana in 2014 of, it's John Brooks for the USA. And he had that header from the corner, but he had, the last year or so, again, he's been really slipping in form, and it sucks because he was playing for a team last year that was in the Champions League. But yeah, John Brooks, very, very poor this game. Mentioned Brandt and Holland already, but Witsel has also been really impressive, not just this game, but in the last month or so. I mean, in our never-ending injury crisis and constant rotations in all the areas of the pitch, he's really stepped up, in my opinion. We know the answer is to obviously not play him at center back anymore, at least hopefully, but just let him do what he does best in the midfield, which is bring that stability, bring that composure and intelligence in that single or double pivot. And I think he's done a great job at that. He did well this game. And then lastly, he's just Tom Rothe again. Very happy for him to get the debut and the goal, of course. Looked nervy at first, but after netting one, he looked a lot more confident on the ball and was able to work himself into the game well. But, he's also looking like a real aerial threat as well, which is something we could really use. Yeah.
So huge.
And he's like 6'2" or something like that.
I saw the photo. There's a training session photo, which I have to say, last weekend I went on my rant about, let me see training session photos of the guys being happy. Mm-hmm. Literally that day that I missed it. They had like this whole, there was a training session that the fans got to come to, and there were so many photos.
That.
And
I was thinking about sending that
after I went off that rant, I'm like, I'm an idiot. I just didn't check the socials. I don't know. I was in a weird mood.
No, you're good.
And I just saw today, there's more training session photos. Mm-hmm. Everyone looks happy. They heard me.
I was thinking the exact same thing when I saw that as well.
There's a photo, and he's just like towering over Chan. And I'm like, how big are you, dude? Like, you're massive. You're a giant.
Yeah, and clearly he knows how to jump pretty well, which, sometimes people can think that goes without saying, but a lot of people do not utilize their size well in soccer. And whenever you can utilize it well, you can become really dangerous in the air, which, at 17, if he can net ones like that and have the skill to be able to flick a ball on with that with his head, I think he can really be a major asset to this team.
Well, I don't want, like, he's got, I don't know how to say this without being like, he's got good proportions, but he doesn't look tall. He's not like lanky. Like he doesn't really look that big until I saw the photo of him next to Chan. I was like, oh, this dude's huge. He's only 17. So he's got, I don't know, it probably helps with his body control and everything. He's not just a big old lanky dude, but he's big. And I don't know. It's encouraging. And the fact that he's already looking pretty good.
Yeah. And we need a left back desperately at the moment. So, or at least a backup for Guerrero. So, he's not perfect. He was definitely looking like a rookie at times, especially in those opening minutes. Very revealing of his ideas on one-on-ones or 1v1s, whether it be an attack or defense. I think he kind of was too revealing of what he was going to do and, kind of let people get to or by him too easily. And he also was really pushed up the field pretty darn high. I don't know if that was more on Rothe of like, let the kid have less defensive responsibility and that he can get up the pitch and provide furthermore an attack. But if we're looking to kind of build him as a left back or left wing back, he does need to learn his positioning a little bit better on the defensive side of things. But
I think it shows just the jump in level because I'm sure he's used to blowing past guys in the. Does he play U23 or U19? U19.
I thought it was U19. But maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know. So I'm sure. Yeah, it's just the jump in level against. Okay, now you're playing against men. So, but that's just something as he learns and as he plays more, he's going to get more used to and learn what to do and be able to. It's an exciting first game, exciting debut for him. So
that is a moment he'll never forget, and that's also how you build players that want to stay here. A lot of the fan base has complaints of like, I'm tired of getting, players that want to just stay here for 1 year and then move on and use this as a stepping stone. So I think that's the way you can bring in those kind of players. So. Yeah, overall, huge win, 6-1, and we march on to a terrifying game this weekend.
One more player I'll give a shout. And because watching the game, I forget if did Hazard get injured, or I don't remember.
I don't think so.
If he was on the bench or what, but I thought Wolf. I mean, Wolf's been playing a pretty good part.
Yeah.
In all the positions he's thrown in, and so as a little. In his wingback position, like I said, he made that great run where he blew past people. It's like, dude, Wolf, get it, man. And then, he looked really well, looked really good. So, anytime Wolf is on or is playing, I'm like, I feel pretty happy with that.
Oh yeah, the redemption arc for Wolf is nothing short of inspiring. I mean, he joined Borussia Dortmund, if people forgot, in July of 2018. I mean, that was 4 effing years ago. And, he had 2 loans since then, was in and out of the team when he did play for us in different seasons. And now he's still really shows that he wants to be here. He wants to work hard, and he's producing. He's performing well. So all power to him. Yeah, I think he's great as well.
All right, looking ahead to Der Klassiker, which it's not a full-on anniversary episode, but we started the podcast.
We did start. I thought about that.
And the first episode was after Der Klassiker, because Carver and I had been talking about doing the podcast, and then when that game happened, I was like, we just have to start. We have to do an episode. Like, it's like, this is the perfect opportunity to start the podcast. So, yeah. So this kind of anniversary.
Yeah, it's a nervy one. We usually go to Munich and don't leave with the best of memories. I can think of a handful of times off the top of my head where we've been thrashed, and by halftime, we're all looking around going like, Jesus Christ, can we just end the game now? So I'm hoping we can just get any sort of result out of this. Bayern, I know they got knocked out of the Champions League by Villarreal. I imagine most people listening know that, and we're just as excited as I was to see the 88th minute winner when they got knocked out. Just to see the Giants finally get knocked out of a tournament like that. But now that means they're going to be a lot more hungry in the league, unfortunately. I know they whipped Bielefeld over the weekend 3-0 away as well, but it was Bielefeld. They have a handful of injuries. I've been wrong about opposition's injuries this entire season so far, unfortunately. But I think Tolisso, Coman, Hernandez, and Sule are going to be out for this one. And Sule might be the only one that's maybe a question mark, because I don't think he had an injury as much as he did. I think it was like a fever the other day, so he didn't play in that Bielefeld game. But, as much as it would help Bayern, unfortunately, at least you get to kind of see if he does play, his abilities against us and at that level. Do
we want him to play and sabotage, or is it part of the sabotage him not playing?
Agent Sule? No, we'll talk to Rothe. We'll give him a quick phone call before the game and give him the clearance, and then he'll go ahead and score a few own goals.
Good.
Do you have any score predictions?
Well, I want to talk quick kind of injuries and potential lineups before score predictions, because Guerrero is back in training, according to the photos. I still don't know his thing, if he had a little knock or what it was exactly. But
I didn't see much of anything either.
And I guess if Guerrero is back, how do you see this lineup?
The last few times we've predicted a 4 at the back, because Rothe, fancies that over a 3-back in most of his career at least. Maybe he is starting to fancy the 3-back a little bit more. So I'm going to probably go with that. I mean, it'll probably say on TV and on the apps that it'll be a 4-back, but in possession we'll be, we'll do that hybrid that we mentioned before. The back 3 is going to be a little bit scary. Zagadou's been exploited by Bayern, specifically Lewandowski, a lot of times over the course of his career at Dortmund, and I would hate to see that happen again, but I would imagine a back 3 again with Akanji, Chan, and Zagadou, and probably the same looking lineup we saw against Wolfsburg. I can't imagine anyone, maybe if Guerrero is going to be back, then we'll have Guerrero over Rothe, but that'd be my guess. I can't imagine Rothe starting Rothe in this kind of a game. He would get
let the
apart.
kid run.
Yeah,
do it. No, because I mean, that was a slight worry, is him getting super far up the field and not tracking back maybe as much as we would need him to, especially against Bayern. So that would be an opportunity.
And they're so brilliant at counterattacking. Yeah, so you can get ripped apart on those if Zagadou doesn't have his great positioning. He doesn't close down those angles well, and Chan's going to be up the field. You have just Akanji back. So
I mean, we also saw in the last game with Stuttgart, we saw Guerrero not get back
no
either. Yep. So I don't know. And then I was trying to find some of the injury stuff, which granted, we always record our episodes and then we drop the episode and then we get all the real injury news and everything. But I saw Hummels was probably not.
Hummels is not going to be back.
Oh, okay. The thing I did want to point out, Kobel apparently had to come off the training pitch today as we're recording this Tuesday because he had a slight knock in a duel. I'm just like, who the heck is dueling Kobel? Are they playing Yu-Gi-Oh in the 18? What's going on? Why would you let anyone get close to Kobel?
God, I didn't see that report. You're just now telling me on live air. That sucks.
Breaking news.
I hope to God Kobel's going to be okay, man. Oh God,
the amount of big saves he has It's every game. You mentioned it. Every game, he always saves us at least a couple of times with he better be fit to play.
I'm sweating a bit just thinking about having hits and goal.
Whatever pain meds you and Erling Haaland have been taking, put him in an ankle brace, whatever he needs. Keep him on the field. God, I just want to know who did this to him and why were they so close to him.
That's the other thing about Haaland is one last quick note about him is I've seen reports that he wasn't even a whole 100% for the Wolfsburg game. He's still been complaining about his ankle. And man, if that's the case, we again are rushing him back, which that's the thing that made me a little I guess hesitant to believe that story if his ankle is truly not 100% is, if there's anything we need to have learned over this whole season with Haaland is don't rush players like that back because they're just going to get injured for longer. So I don't know if the whole ankle thing was true or if it was and he just was on some sort of painkillers. I have no idea.
Yeah, I've seen it's all Twitter reports and who knows what's honest or what's real. I just don't see it being that likely that, I guess the reports, quote unquote reports is Haaland refuses to, he's just taking pain meds and he's refusing to not play, or I don't know how to word that, but I'm if Haaland goes to Rothe and he's I'm definitely playing, put me on pain meds and I'm playing, is that a realistic scenario? I don't know.
The one thing too of if it would have been also true, I feel like he would have been pulled off earlier in the game. I was thinking about that.
That's
about
one thing
him.
that the commentators mentions if he's really struggling and he's on pain meds and stuff, you would have probably subbed him out earlier.
Because he's not going to come off by himself. He's going to keep playing. So I would have probably pulled him off too, injury or not. In the Wolfsburg game, probably around the 60th minute or so, and give those other players some more time and rest Haaland for sure. But yeah, so let's score predictions.
I think it's going to be an exciting, tight game, like last time. If Brant wants to score one early, that would be fantastic. Again, like last time, I would say 3-2, and I know the score prediction last time, so I'm taking the easier way out. I'm going to say we reverse it on them, though, and we win 3-2.
3-2, a win? Oh, man, that'd be a historic day.
I'm just being hopeful.
Yeah. I'm going to go hopeful as well, but I'm going to say 2-2.
Okay. That's a good result, too. We'll take that.
I would take a draw. It's not like we're going to go into this thinking we're going to win the Bundesliga anyway. Which, speaking of which, if Bayern do beat us, they do win the Bundesliga this Saturday. Unfortunately, they'll win it a few games early. I know. That'd be pretty heartbreaking.
And then we'll just have an episode of, we were supposed to do our prayer circle this episode.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we got another.
Delete everything. Delete the last 42 minutes.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to mention, and I think so we have last week they announced the Match for Peace game. And I meant to talk about it last episode. It's what usually happens is I don't do enough preparation and then I count on Carver to walk in the studio with all the prep done. And then I just sit here and say random stuff. And it usually works out great, which is why I forgot completely last time that I wanted to mention this, because when they had announced this Match for Peace, Dortmund's going to host a benefit match against Dynamo Kyiv, which I don't even know. They probably haven't been playing at all, like the Ukrainian league, or
they've had one friendly on April 14th against Galatasaray, and other than that, their last league game was in December, so they have not played.
Yeah, so we're hosting. It's going to be a home game for Dortmund, April 26th, and all the proceeds are going to go towards Ukrainian aid efforts. And it's cool to, again, give them an opportunity to play when they're, not just their soccer, football season, but their lives. It's just nuts what's going on over there. Devastating, extremely heartbreaking. So cool to give them an opportunity to play and feel some sense of normalcy, I guess. And, of course, raising money for the Ukrainian aid efforts. So
I thought it was all going to the Schlotterbeck transfer. It's a bad joke. Never mind.
Do we need to check the fine print? It's not. Make sure it says 100% proceeds and not proceeds.
That's
you check.
good.
It's like 10%. It's like So obviously, I'm just interested to see the lineup because this is a midweek game, April 26th. This is going to be a few days after. It's like Tuesday after we play Bayern, and it's just interesting to me that it's still mid-season in in between. I guess if Bayern wins, and okay, these last 3 games don't matter so much, but I mean, do you have any thoughts on it being kind of in the middle of the season and a midweek game?
Well, thankfully, since we have just the Bundesliga to play for, it's not like we have a lot of other games during the midweek. So we're still going to have, if it's on Tuesday, we'll still have Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to prep for Bochum. And I would imagine Rothe plays maybe 5 or 6 starters throughout this game for a half, and then a half pulls everyone else off.
Yeah, so. I think I typically want it. Obviously, he's going to rotate the squad heavily, but I think I question it, I guess, because of how many injuries we've had. Mm-hmm. If we haven't been just like dealing with these continual injuries all season long, I mean, of course, it's normal for people to play throughout the game, especially us, like when we're hopefully making Champions League runs or playing in Europe, or the Pokal, which played today. Freiburg is moving on. Schlotterbeck masterclass again, I believe. I didn't actually watch it, but his ratings and stats look good. So obviously we should be capable of playing a couple games a week, but just because our injuries is my only question mark. But it is obviously better, and that's why they planned it after the Bayern game. And it's better that it's on a Tuesday and not a Wednesday or something. So
yeah.
But that is coming April 26th, and I checked it's going to be an early game. It's like 5 a.m. our time, but I'll probably wake up and watch it. If it's streamed. I don't know. I haven't checked.
Sounds good.
And then, I mean, anything else? Oh, we have an announcement.
Yeah, lastly, we do have one announcement. Yeah. So we teased this a few weeks back, but we will have a special guest next week to recap the Bayern game with us, and that is Josh from JJD TV, the YouTuber. Very kind enough to come on and hang out with us and talk to us about the game a little bit. So we're going to shoot some shit with him about the game, ask him a few questions in general. I'd love to get to know him a little bit more, and it'll be a great time.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's gonna be awesome. It's always good when we have guests occasionally on here. I mean, it's only been a couple times, but
yeah, and we'll have other guests in the future that we have reached out to as well, but that's for a different time and for a different show.
Another tease.
I'm full of them.
Yeah, so that's it for this week. Thanks so much for hanging with us again. We got to give another shout out. I meant to do this at the beginning, but last week we put a call out to give us some rate the podcast, because it's nice to get your feedback, and it's nice when you say nice things or just give us a 5-star rating wherever you listen to podcasts. And you guys stepped up. We checked Spotify and we had quite a pretty solid number of 5-star ratings, and we were both like, is this real? Is this a mistake? What happened?
Yeah.
And Carver did make a joke about paying people for reviews, so I think people are just expecting to get a payout now. But
yeah, I have a lot of Venmo requests in my phone now.
So if you haven't rated us yet, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you want to give us a 5-star rating, that would be great, as we mentioned last time. If you don't want to give us a 5-star rating, don't give us a bad rating, just DM us, and we'll talk it out, and maybe Carver is going to slide you some cash. We'll see. See if we can win over that.
Yeah. I'm in a lot of debt already.
Carver's Venmo is.
Yeah.
No, but you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at thebvbpod. Again, search the BVB podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple, to give us those ratings. You can find our episodes on YouTube as well. I just found a way easier way to post our episodes to YouTube. It used to take me a bunch of extra time, and then I realized I just have to click one extra button and it auto publishes YouTube. So episodes are there too. I think that's it. Anything else? Any other important announcements?
No, that's it. Just excited for next week. Yeah, be sure to tune in for the show with Josh. It'll be a fun time.
I was just about to say, Carver's been holding up pretty well on his painkillers, but I don't know, that last sentence seemed a bit of a struggle. So it's a good time to
my face is really hurting.
So on that note, we'll see you later.
Bye.